Good afternoon. Happy Monday afternoon to everybody. As we sort of get through the last week before the holidays really hit. I'm Adam Sled. I'm the Executive Director of the Dominion Energy Innovation Center. You can see Braden is there. Hi, Braden. Braden's in the office right now. The Program Director. And there's some other team on here. I see Ida's on here somewhere. I see Kristen. I can actually see Kristen. She's got her camera on. Hi, Kristen. And then we are joined today by Brandi, Frazier, Bestpitch, and Chensen from Virginia Energy. So we sat down with the team the other month. I guess Brandi and I were talking about this. I'm going to say October. I'm going to say it was October when we sat down. And Brandi was telling us about this VGRIP program and how amazing it was, and how the state, Virginia Energy, was sort of managing this process to get out millions of dollars sort of flowing through the federal government to projects that could happen in Virginia. And Braden and I said, let us do a webinar with you. Let us help spread the word and make sure people know about this, because it's too important to not have a million great applications. So they graciously agreed, and here we are. So I'm going to let Chensen and Brandi sort of introduce themselves a little bit, so that you can learn more about their roles at the state, and let them kind of dive into the opportunity. And second reminder, as you have questions or comments, please drop them in the chat. Braden and I will kind of moderate around there. See, Braden already put it in the chat as well. And if you have questions about what is the DEIC, because you don't know us, we can always address that later. But in the meantime, let's let our friends from Virginia Energy kind of jump in here and start talking about what this amazing program is and how freaked out you need to be about getting your application in.
Thank you, Adam. Chensen, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, and then I'll introduce myself and kind of kick off the presentation.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Chensen, and I joined Virginia Energy in August, and my current role is a transmission and distribution analyst. I'm working for this VGRIP project. So if you have any questions, please just let us know.
Yeah. Thank you, Chensen. And my name is Brandi Frazier Bestpitch. I'm the Associate Director of Energy Security and Reliability at the Virginia Department of Energy. And Chensen and I together are the program managers for the Virginia Grid Reliability Improvement Program and funding opportunity. But before we get started, on behalf of Virginia Energy, I want to extend our sincere gratitude to Dominion Energy Innovation Center for hosting today's informational webinar. This platform has provided us with an invaluable opportunity to share details about Virginia's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, Section 40101D program that we affectionately call VGRIP, or the Virginia Grid Reliability Improvement Program. This funding has the potential to significantly strengthen our electric grid, reduce outages, and enhance energy resilience across our communities. And we appreciate DEIC's commitment to fostering these meaningful conversations and partnerships that support critical infrastructure improvements. Thank you for helping us to reach the stakeholders that are on this call, helping us invest in creating a more reliable and resilient energy future. So with that, let's kick off our presentation. So this afternoon, we're going to provide you with an overview of the program and funding opportunity, highlight programs that qualify for this funding, discuss the eligible entities, the application process, and subsequent steps, including the negotiation period and project management reporting. The objective of the Virginia Grid Reliability Improvement Program, or VGRIP, is to enhance the resilience of the electric grid against disruptive events. Per IIJA Section 40101A1, a disruptive event is an event in which operations of the electric grid are disrupted, preventively shut off, or cannot operate safely due to extreme weather, wildfire, or natural disaster. This slide illustrates an overview of the Grid Resilience Formula grant process. The eligibility and allocations were based on a formula that considers population area, probability of disruptive events, severity of disruptive events, and expenditure on mitigation efforts. Then the application submission, states developed a program based on their envisioned needs and submitted an application to DOE to access their formula funds. Metrics for program success and compliance with federal standards, proposed process to distribute the funds, etc. Once approved, a preliminary award amount is granted, and that's kind of where we are in round 2. Virginia's program design and rollout, the Commonwealth designed and implemented a competitive process for recipients to apply for grants. The process prioritizes projects that improve resilience to weather events, benefit disadvantaged communities, and align with federal standards such as Buy America, Build American provisions. The following gives you a list of programs that are not eligible under this program, or projects that aren't eligible under this program. So new generation construction, new cybersecurity investments, large-scale battery storage facility constructions that are not intended for system resilience. I keep wanting to say next slide, realizing that I have control. So to achieve this objective, funding provided by DOE under this program may be used to implement a wide range of resilience measures intended to mitigate the impact of disruptive events. And qualified programs include what you see on the slide: weatherization technologies and equipment, which enhance grid resilience by protecting energy infrastructure from extreme weather conditions, such as high winds, flooding, ice storms, and heat waves. Examples of this may include infrastructure hardening, insulated power lines, or using insulated conductors to reduce the risk of short circuits caused by falling branch or ice buildup, advanced conductors that can withstand high temperatures and sag less under heat stress, maintaining reliability during heat waves, protective equipment such as pole reinforcements, systems strengthening utility poles with composite materials or steel, ensuring that they can resist high winds and heavy ice loads, flood barriers and seals installed around substations and underground equipment prevents damage from storm surges and flooding, climate resilient components like weather resistant transformers, sealed heat tolerant transformers to help maintain functionality in extreme temperatures, submersible electrical components, underground components designed to function while submerged, reduce outage risks in flood prone areas, monitoring and automation tools, weather sensor and forecasting tools such as advanced sensors monitors, weather conditions in real time, allowing operators to adjust grid operation preemptively, such as dynamic line ratings, or DLRs. Those tools advance grid management systems that monitor real-time conditions on power lines to determine their maximum safe carrying capacity. You can contrast that with the static line ratings. DLRs can adjust the ratings dynamically based on real-time data, allowing the utilities to increase grid capacity when conditions are favorable. Fire-resistant technologies and fire prevention systems, which play a critical role in enhancing grid reliability and resilience by reducing the risk of wildfires caused by electrical infrastructure, such as fire-resistant poles, intumescent coatings, which expand when exposed to heat, creating that protective layer that insulates equipment from damage, covered power lines, high temperature insulated cables, wildfire detection and monitoring systems, infrared and optical cameras installed along lines to detect smoke and heat signatures and flames, weather monitoring systems, automatic shutoff and isolation systems, grid hardening and system upgrades like undergrounding and smart grids components, vegetation and fuel management, monitoring and control technologies, which I've already kind of listed a few, but they kind of roll into this one as well, for enhancing grid resilience involve systems that provide real-time visibility, control, and automation of electric grid operations. These technologies improve the grid's ability to detect, respond to, and recover from disruptions caused by weather events and equipment failures or cyber attacks. Supervisory control and data acquisition, or SCADA, systems that allow utilities to monitor and control grid components remotely, either gather real-time data from sensors and across the grid, enabling operators to respond quickly to issues like outages or equipment failures. Advanced distribution management systems, automated switches and reclosers, remote thermal units, which collects and transmit data from remote grid locations to central control systems, supporting remote monitoring and control, demand response systems. So these technologies collectively enhance grid visibility, reduce outage durations, and enable proactive management of electricity distribution, making the grid more resilient, adaptive. Undergrounding of electrical equipment, utility pole management, and relocation of power lines or reconductoring of power lines with low sag advanced conductors. Continuing with the qualified programs, you have vegetation, tree trimming and pruning, brush clearing, right-of-way maintenance, and fuel load management can be qualified programs. That's prescribed burns, mechanical remover, even livestock grazing programs to qualify. Technology-driven solutions, remote sensing and monitoring using drones, satellites, and LiDAR, that light detection and ranging to monitor vegetation growth and fuel loads in hard-to-reach areas. By combining these traditional management with advanced technology, utilities can reduce service interruptions, improve fire safety, and enhance overall grid resilience. So these are some of the programs that we're looking for. Use or construction of distributed energy resources for enhancing system adaptive capacity during disruptive events by providing localized energy generation, storage, and load management. These capabilities include load flexibility and demand response, battery storage subcomponents like energy storage and backup power that can be dispatched instantly. Adaptive protection technologies. These enhance the grid reliability and resilience by automatically adjusting grid protection setting based on real-time operating conditions. These technologies enable faster, more precise responses to grid disruptions, minimizing outages, improving system recovery. Examples of this include intelligent relays and protection systems, adaptive relays, which dynamically adjust protection settings based on real-time grid conditions, such as load changes, voltage fluctuations, or faults. They prevent false trips and enhance response times. You can also have distance relays with adaptive zones, which adjust their projection zones based on system conditions and ensuring more precise fault detection, or wide area monitoring systems, WAMs, assisting transmission operators in daily operations, preventing blackouts. Automatic switchers and reclosers, DER management systems, inverter-based protections, advanced inverters connected to DERs like solar and battery systems to provide grid support, functions such as voltage regulation and reactive power compensation, fault location isolation and service restoration, or FLISR systems, sensors and controls algorithms to detect faults, isolate affected areas, and restore service to unaffected sections in real time. So these technologies, when integrated into the grid, enhance the ability to adapt to changing conditions, maintain reliability, and quickly recover from disruptions. So any of these could be qualifying programs that could be covered by this grant opportunity. And then advanced modeling technologies, hardening of power lines, facilities and substations, and replacement of old overhead conductors and underground cables. So eligible applicants for this program include electric grid operators, electricity storage operators, an electricity generator, a transmission owner or operator, a distribution provider, fuel supplier, or any other relevant entity as determined by the Secretary of Energy. So now I'm going to kick it over to Chensen.
Okay, hello. So I'm going to talk about, thank you, Brandi. I think Brandi basic talk about the project objectives and those basic requirements. So I'm now going to talk more details about an application. How do you submit an application? So the VGRIP project it basically has currently have like $11.5 million to be allocated, and we are supposed to select those projects that can enhance the grid resiliencies for the Virginia, which are for 5 years, but if justified, can be up to 10 years. And the applicants can apply for the award for up to $5 million. So you can always be easy to find those informations from our website, and there is also a template for the applications to be submitted. So in the application, there are actually two parts that will be very important. Next slide, please. So the first part will be about the project areas and also the size sections. So in your applications, it will be better to include the detailed information about the areas for the project and also the size that is associated. So we want to very detailed information, including the tax parcel identifications and also probably like latitude and longitude. And also we want to know about the information about the properties ownerships, whether it is a privately owned or it's a publicly owned. If it is a privately owned, probably we want to know about the whether agreement has been achieved, and also if the agreement want to be achieved in the futures, we want to know about the process about it. And also, we also focus on about the community needs and also the Justice 40 for this project. And also it is basically, Brandi, you want to talk about the Justice 40 here a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So for Justice 40 requirements, grid resilience and reliability projects can be designed to align with Justice 40 by addressing the unique challenges faced by disadvantaged communities. And these can include investment in energy infrastructure, that upgrading outdated electrical infrastructure in underserved areas, prioritizing redundancy and backup generation, battery storage to reduce power outage, community-based energy projects that support battery storage products that benefit community organizations or shelters. Also, job creation and workforce development can kind of fall into this area.
Thank you, Brandi. And other than the project areas, another information that need to be included in your application is the project scope and also the budget. Next slide, please. So basically you want to know how your project will be aligned with the basic requirement as was mentioned by Brandi to improve the resiliency of your power grid. And also for the scope of the work, we want to have the information for how are you going to achieve the goal and the milestones for your project. So you basically need to have a matrix to evaluate your performance and also the performance of the project. And we want to understand how you will achieve those metrics and how you will achieve those goals, and also how are you going to report quarterly, which is going to be another requirement. And the next thing that you need to consider about it is going to be the budget of your project. Next slide, please. So basically, for every award you applied from the federal, there will be an obligation requirement from you that you need to first. That contains basically two parts. The first one is a federal match requirement, that which means if you for every dollars of the federal money you get, you will also need to match for it, and that will be basically different based on the scale of your organization. If you are a large company that serves like more than 4 million megawatt hours per year, for the electricity supply, then you are supposed to have a federal match requirement for 100%. That means every $1 you need to have obligations for $1 for it. But if you are a small organizations, which means you provide less than 4 million megawatt per year, megawatt hour per year for the electricities, then you are only required to provide 1/3 of the match requirement. And another part of the obligations will be the state match requirement that you are also need to contribute for the percentage that where the requirement for the state part. So your total obligation is going to be the combination of these two parts. So the percentage can be a little complicated, but we have a nice calculator in our website, and you can always play with it. So basically, you just need to keep two numbers in mind. First one is a 4 million megawatt hours per year, which will basically define whether you are a large applicant or a small applicant. And another part will be the $5 million. So which was the maximum amount of federal dollars you can apply for. So that means if you want to get a really large project, which will be a good thing. In this case, then the extra cost will need to be tolerated by your organizations. So that is a basic requirement. So you can always play that calculators. So here is a hint. So make sure that you understand of those things and you have a good estimations about your project cost, and also make sure that you already played with the calculator before you do the calculation, because if there is a miscalculation, that probably means that you are going to bear some extra cost in the futures if your project is awarded. Thank you, Brandi.
So did you mention the state match?
Yeah, I mentioned. So the state match is basically the mandatory state match is 15%. But this number can be a little tricky because there is also a processing fee from the Virginia Energy. So the actual percentage for the state match is 15.79%. So your total obligations for every $1 of the federal money you get, you will need to have obligations for both the federal match requirement, which may be 100% or maybe 1/3 of it, and also you also need to have a match for the state match requirement.
Right.
So yeah.
Just to elaborate on that, because I'm not sure that was clearly stated, but due to the limited state funding for related efforts, Virginia Energy is passing this 15% or 15.79 state match requirement to the applicants. So you have to factor that in as well.
Yeah, and also, so the accept forms of the cost share, including both the monies and also any other in kinds of contributions, that is allowed by the federals.
Okay.
Thank you, Brandi. I think it's your turn.
Yeah. So all recipients and subrecipients will also be required to comply with the Build America, Buy America, Davis prevailing wage, and historic preservation laws per the terms and conditions of the award. Sub-award recipients are required to conduct compliance audits for these requirements and to submit any adverse findings to Virginia Energy. Audit documents must be provided upon any request. So the selection process, top priority will be given to resilience projects that support reliable energy for residents, critical services, businesses, and industry, serve low income and energy burdened communities, support job creation and economic development, and identify disruptive events that are adversely impactful to customers and are able to mitigate those impacts. Once selected, Virginia Energy will issue a notice of intent to award and will request you to respond with a confirmation statement outlining your willingness to continue. A brief sentence just stating your intent to proceed with VGRIP is all that is needed at this time. If for some reason you're unable to move forward with the award and proposal, you would just indicate at that time. A response should be submitted within 7 days of our intent to award. So next steps. Further to our intent to award message, Virginia Energy will request the potential awardee to complete the final forms necessary for the subaward notification package sent to the U.S. Department of Energy for their review and final funding approval. To complete the review and make a determination regarding the potential award, we require the listed documentation to be included in the notification package. And these include the environmental questionnaire from NEPA. All recipients and subrecipients will be required to submit an environmental questionnaire for each work location proposed in the application in compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. This form helps the Federal Department of Energy evaluate whether the proposed projects might have environmental impacts, determining if further environmental review is required. It includes project information, project scope and activities, environmental considerations such as land use, air quality, water resources, biological resources, any potential to disturb wildlife, cultural and historical resources, waste considerations. Will this project produce hazardous or non-hazardous waste? Permits and approvals. We would list any environmental permits that may be required. Mitigation measures. Describe plan measures to environmental impacts, erosion control, etc., and supporting documentation. Also, we will request a cost match commitment letter statement from the eligible entity committing to meet the project cost match 100% or 1/3, depending on your size, as required by the IIJA section 40101H. You'll also include fiscal year, cost match dollar value, source type, and signature. We'll also request an SF 424 budget justification workbook. This must include detailed itemized project-related cost. This is a critical component of the VGRIP 40101D grant application. This form breaks down the applicant's proposed project costs, explaining how requested funds will be spent and ensuring compliance with the federal funding requirements. There's a budget summary, and on the budget summary, federal funds requested, enter the amount of federal funding requested for the project. Non-federal funds match, you'll include matching funds from state, local, or private sources. The budget categories, figures populate from entries in the subsequent tabs in the budget justification. For personnel, you'll include salaries, wages for employees working directly on the project, providing job titles, roles, annual salaries, and percentage of time worked. You also include fringe benefits details, include fringe costs like health insurance, retirement, other benefits. Travel, you'll need to explain travel costs necessary for project implementation, site visits, training, stuff like that. Any equipment, include capital equipment purchases, items with a useful life more than 1 year. Supplies, necessary supplies from office materials, project-specific tools, stuff like that. Contractual, you'll list subawards or contractor costs, specifying the nature of the contracted work. In the budget narrative, the justification under section B on the summary page, you'll provide a detailed explanation for each cost item listed in section B. Justify why each expense is necessary and reasonable. We recommend using clear, specific language to describe project goals and how funding will support these objectives. Include calculations for each budget line, ensuring transparency and alignment with the project objectives, activities. Best practices for the budget justification that we recommend is be detailed, avoid vague language, and clearly explain costs and their relevance to the project. Stay consistent, ensure costs align with the project narrative. follow federal guidelines, use allowable cost principles that are outlined in 2 CFR Part 200, check for cost share requirements. So in the final stages, the reporting requirements, additional data collection will include like project locations, measurable improvements of resilience, transmission capacity, upgraded, expanded, or built, electricity storage capacity installed, funding leveraged, stakeholders engaged, technical assistance provided, value of contracts or agreements with minority-owned businesses for supplies, services, or equipment. Project management reporting documents include the financial report SF 425, which is the financial report that's used by recipients to support reports on their grant's financial progress, project management plan, and quarterly progress report. This is used by recipients to report on the progress of their projects. Annual program metrics and impact reports. So these are used by recipients to report on the impact of their project. And I think that's all we have. And I did see some questions rolling in, so I was trying to like keep my eye focused on the presentation.
No, you guys, that was great. All right, let's see. I'll tell you what, I'll start with Norma, because thank you, Norma. Norma has some sort of couple related questions. I'll start here. Can projects be behind the meter or in front of the meter, or do they have to be front of the meter?
When you talk about the behind meter, are you talking about the demand forecast or something related?
I guess we mean like on a end user's property, essentially.
So is that from the grid level, like to forecast the demands or demand response or some similar things, or it's like a rooftop solar or something like the behind meter?
It would be like rooftop solar. I mean, I think from your description, it sounds like, actually, I guess that's Braden. I'm trying to think through. It seems like it could be either, it could be behind the meter, but it'd have to be owned by the distribution utility if it was behind the meter.
Okay, so it still belongs to the utility, right? You mean?
I think if you go back to that, you had like a who can initiate the project, basically.
I think the kind of broader question there, Chensen, might be, does the utility need to own and control a power generation asset, whether that's battery or whether that's a traditional format, or could a customer-sited asset owned by that customer, perhaps allowing them to participate in a demand response scenario, or to produce electricity that could be net metered and sold back to the grid, in your example, rooftop solar, but it could be storage, could be solar, could be anything else, right? So I think there's a question on ownership of that asset and how in which it would interact with the grid.
I think as
can I speak?
yes.
Right there in that one slide, you said large-scale battery energy storage project are not permitted, not eligible. There you go.
Right.
There's large-scale battery storage facility constructions that are not intended for system resilience. Resilience to me means backup power. So it means you want batteries only for backup power, right?
Right.
Okay,
right.
resilience equals backup power.
Yes.
Okay, so what I'm doing in New York is we're putting batteries behind the meter so that, say, for our hospital project, for example, so that we can power up the batteries at off-peak and use the power during on-peak to take peak load off of the system.
Yeah.
Now, the batteries are either owned, in some cases, by my company, or they're owned by the hospital itself. But the utility does not own them. Like for example, in the case of the hospital project, that's a 14-hour battery. So that's, what they call long duration energy storage. So
Yeah.
I guess my first question is, looked to me initially like you guys did not want any battery energy storage whatsoever. But then when I looked at further, it looked like you're looking at community-based,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. So I was just trying to figure out, does, the battery energy storage play, and under what scenarios? Is these utility owned, privately owned, at a substation, or say behind a meter at a hospital or some large installation like that? I was just trying to figure out where this would or would not fit.
I mean, I think as long as it can be supporting, like we had if it can support the grid resilience on those. I was trying to find the slide that had
The disruptive of with the disruptive events, right?
the prioritization on projects.
Mhm.
Oh, there
So, as long as it can support, residents, critical services, business and industries, I think that it could be considered.
Mhm.
And I do want to clarify, like, a sort of a caveat to that. And again, it seems like, generally speaking, the projects are supposed to be put forward by, the utilities, like the co-ops or the munis or the larger utilities in the state. So that's really who you're looking to as the applicant,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very important distinction.
Mhm.
Right. So
Okay.
it's not meant for like the hospital to show up and say,
Yes.
this
Yes.
would help us from a resilience standpoint. It's got to be like the
Yes.
co-op that serves the hospital says, we need to be doing some storage for peak shaving resiliency efforts, and here's 2 locations we've identified that make sense for placing those batteries.
Okay, can I hate to be a pain in the butt, but so if we were going to put forward a project like this, it sounds like my privately owned company would have to partner with a utility and have a utility put that forward. How could facilitization to make that contact at the utility, how could I do that? Do I just have to automatically have that and have that in place by the end of January? Or can you guys help make contacts with the utility so that can be put forward?
Um,
I have half an
What?
answer.
you have an answer?
Well, I have half an answer, Norma, which is, we've got a couple utilities on here, and Braden and then Kristen and Ida and I are reaching out to the utility side, like saying, if you have an interest in certain types of technology that you want to, do with this, and you don't know who the right provider might be, like, we're happy to play teaming partner, but I don't know that that's necessarily the state's, like, I don't know that that's Brandi's problem necessarily.
Yeah, and something else is we can kind of get a little bit more information on this and go back to DOE to see like what process this could, just to get clarification on whether that would be a viable project without. But yeah, making that connection would be helpful ahead of time.
Right. I mean, Norma, we can try and sort out some kind of like teaming, like, how like the prizes will do like teaming partner pages.
Yep. So we'll talk offline. How's that? But that
That
sounds very nice, and I greatly appreciated. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Well,
Um,
correct me if I'm wrong, Brandi and Chensen, but in that regard, Ashland Energy as an energy storage company, if they own it, they would be an electric storage operator or an electricity generator, correct?
good
There's not a designation that would not make, she's not a utility, she's not, but she is
Right.
generating electricity and
And
storing
that's
it.
where I'm thinking it would qualify. So I just want to get a little bit more information up from DOE just to confirm that point.
Oh yeah, good catch, Braden.
Thanks, guys.
I want to get to Matt's question about all right, so you have the overall pot of money, and then there's this sort of top line, here's the most somebody can apply for. This is the big question is like, do you have a sense yet for what your sort of project portfolio is going to look like? What's your optimal sort of project portfolio? Do you want to do 2 huge projects? Do you want to do 8 small projects? You're going to just sort of see what comes in?
Ideally, so we need to see what comes in to see if it qualifies. I mean, and it's really hard to say. In round 1, we had, a very diverse applicant pool, but not all of them qualified. They didn't have enough granularity on how, their requested system upgrades were necessary. Like, they had a very general statement of why it would, but yeah, it depends. It depends on, we don't have like a general goal. We just know that, we have this available, the funding is available, and we would like to try and get those projects that will enhance that resiliency and reliability that hit these requirements. Just one more thing. It's like we have up to 11.5 million. So if we can, find awards for all of that, we will. But, the maximum award size is up to 5 million per project.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask one more question on that for Brandi and Chensen? Is it that 5-year period, is that the period you want these to take, or that's just the maximum period and you see a set of projects? It doesn't take 5 years to build a battery storage system or do anything, but you could have a scenario in which you have a company that wants to do 5 years of modeling and forecasting work and confirming those models every year for 5 years. Is that kind of how you would see a differentiation? You would have some short-term projects and some longer horizon data acquisition and analysis projects?
So the 5 years is the funding period.
So the intention is for that money for a project to last for 5 years total. You don't want them to last shorter than that.
No, it's just the money that comes through is in that 5-year period. So it can be like each year we've got, right. So the first round 1 was year 1 and 2.
Okay.
This is year 3. And then we've got, I think, 2 more funding opportunities. Is that right, Chensen?
Yeah, I think so.
Gotcha. Okay.
So the project that doesn't pertain to the project.
Got it. Think. All right. Kieran.
Wait, I don't fully understand that point yet. Thank you. Let me put my picture up. So are you saying that you apply for, so what is the amount that you can apply for any given year based on that, what you just said? So it's 11.
The maximum award size per project is 5 million.
But that, and can that be stretched over 5 years? I think that was what Braden was asking, or is it a 1-year project?
So this one, I think that based on the descriptions of this project, is that DOE is anticipate for projects that is for those projects that are around like 5 years. So you can always like estimate about the total amount of money that you probably want. You can estimate about the money in the future. So you can estimate the budget for each year, if that is like 2 years or 3 years, right, Brandi?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you could apply for up to for $5 million, up to $5 million for up to a 5-year period. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay, I'm still confused. Yeah, I'm still confused. Can anyone help me ask this
So say
question?
it's like a hardware software combination, right? And it's $500,000 to set up, and then there's an ongoing software monitoring component, like Kieran system, or it's a full software sort of yearly component like Susan's system. They're baking into the budget justification. This is a 5-year project, the total cost for the project is $2 million? Or is that how it's supposed to work? And then you have like $400,000 a year in the budget justification?
Yeah, sort of like in the budget justification, you want the first year.
Yeah.
You can write down those kind of items like the estimations for the cost in the first year and second year and the third year. So I think the basic idea is that the DOEC is anticipated to make the awards for estimated period of performance of 5 years.
Yes.
So the basic
Okay.
performance, it's an estimated period of 5 years. It doesn't necessarily you need to be 5 years. You can either short or longer. It can be up to 10 years if justified it.
Right, because you could have a hardware deployment, right?
Mhm.
Like a line, like a reconductoring, right?
Right,
And like the reconductoring project could just take a year. It's
Mhm.
1 year, it costs X amount of dollars to do that hardware, right? And then it's
Right.
done after 1 year versus something that is either like a hardware software
Yeah.
combination, fire protection monitoring system, right? That has sort of multiple years worth of monitoring baked into the budget justification, or software to check on the strength of the network infrastructure.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So it could go either way, depending on if it's hardware, software, or hardware, software combo. But you can, like, if it is software, you could submit something that says it has a 5-year period of performance.
Is there hesitation about that? Say you put in a proposal for $300,000 a year for 5 years with a description of what happens each year. Is that an appropriate application?
That's a good point. So sometimes you probably want some escalations for every years, like but basically that will depends on your requirement, right? Your
Yeah.
basic requirement for each years. For the
Right.
first
Yeah.
years, the price, and the second year the price probably not necessary to be the same.
Mhm.
And I believe it's not.
Right.
I think in the real world it should not be the same, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's much clearer.
Yeah, thank you.
But Susan, I mean, I think you all are kind of interpreting the federal DOE's guidance here on
Right.
like, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, query obligation versus announcement,
Yeah.
and all that.
I did want to get to Barrow's question, which is, do you have a sense for, so if the deadline is the 31st, do you have a sense for when the intent to award notifications might be?
It depends on how many applications we receive and how complex they are. We would like to have at least a month. But yeah, it just depends on the volume, because we are a small entity. It's just 2 of us. We do have a team and a project officer at DOE, but I'm hoping that we can get a response back within the month on notice of intent to our applicants.
Fair enough.
Brandi, do you have the money in the state purse, or does this money reside with DOE at this point?
We have been allocated that 11 million. Oh, what is it? 11.5 million.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right. I wanted to get to this. Yes. Kieran's question was, does it have to be deployed in Virginia?
Yes.
Okay. And as you said before, and I'm not sure I realized, so the other states are also doing this right now,
Yes.
like
Mhm.
And the
deploying the same.
programs vary by state. States develop the programs independently.
Okay. So for those of you who are looking how to do this in other states as well, other state energy offices are also trying to deploy this money right now in whatever
In
format
fact,
they've decided, right?
yeah, on DOE's website, they have a list of allocations on how much the states have been allocated based on the formula. And states have similar program pages like we have.
Stop the sharing. There we go. All right. So yes. So this is actually, Karen, this is the best possible answer to your question because it's yes, but also there are many other states trying to deploy this money.
Thank
So
you.
it's Virginia and.
Yeah.
All right, gang. Who else? Oh yeah, there you go. Good question. The formula. Are these state GRIP grants the formula grants, or is that a separate program?
These are the formula grants.
There you go.
The VGRIP is the formula grant.
Awesome. Anything else, gang?
Trying to see.
We did have a question in here from Kristen about clarifying a grant
yeah.
awardee versus a sub-awardee. I assume the Virginia Department of Energy is the awardee from the Department of Energy, and then you're looking for your
Correct.
sub-awardees right
Sub-awardees.
now.
Yep.
That is the process.
Exactly.
That's where
the
we
point.
are.
Yeah, that's the point. So basically, from your point, you may have a sub-recipient, and from the DOE parts of the view, we are the awardee and you are the sub-awardees. And from our points of view, you are the awardee and your contractors are the sub-awardees.
Perfect.
Oh yeah. Anything else?
Hey, Adam,
welcome.
sorry, just one question. Sorry, this is Karan with REC. I had a question when it came to the climate and economic justice training tool. So my understanding is a lot of Justice 40 and DAC areas, disadvantaged communities and things like that. A lot of them have various thresholds. You could have, I think in DACs they have like 8 different criterias or thresholds. I think it looks like the climate and I think Justice 40 has similar, different categories and number of, I think they call them burden thresholds. And so I'm just curious, would let's say a certain DAC area or a certain Justice 40 area has like 6 burden thresholds versus another area that may have 1. So let's say our project is only an area that has 1 burden threshold versus other projects that may have, maybe in a Justice 40 area that has 6 burden thresholds. Would that be weighted differently from scoring? Just curious.
I think it really depends on the project and whether it can hit some of those other criteria as well. Just roll that in. We don't really have that kind of metric where we would like to see as many thresholds as possible, but really if it hits 1 and you're able to show that and show other benefits to it, then we would consider it.
Great, thank you. And maybe I might have missed this in the presentation, sorry, but is there any like tying to the Justice 40, is there any additional to I guess weighting or criteria for federally recognized tribal lands?
Yes, but I'm trying to think if the Virginia tribes have been awarded separately, so they might have their own funding opportunity.
Got it. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Cool.
I wanted to chime in with 2 more questions if it's okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is Matt Anderson with the ad hoc group. My first question is a follow-up to my other question. Are there public project descriptions of the awards from the year 1 and year 2 allocations from round 1 of this program?
Those are still in negotiation.
Got it. Okay, thank you. And my second question was, do we know at this point anything about allocations for the year 4 and 5 of the formula grant program?
No, we do not.
Okay. I thought that might be the case. Just wanted to ask.
Yeah, I mean, with the changing of the administration, I think those funds are pretty secure, but we haven't heard yet.
Understood. Thank you.
I will say for DEIC, we will put our heads together and see if we can come up with a good idea for like a teaming page of some sort and see if any of our utility friends are interested in that.
Yeah, and if there's any other questions that come up that weren't answered, and we can go back to DOE for more clarity on some of those that may not seem as black and white.
Yeah.
Please reach out. You guys will have access to our contact information, so we can explore it deeply and try and get answers to your questions.
Very good. All right. Well, and that takes us to just about 4. Okay, so hopefully, Chensen, Brandi, you felt good about that. You get some good explaining in, good questions.
Yeah, and I really hope, I mean, the goal of this was really to get you thinking about potential projects and to try and broaden our stakeholder outreach. We could have meaningful discussions about, what's going through this application process. And we do look forward to receiving these applications.
Yeah. And remember the deadline is January 31st. And also remember to play with the calculators. That means money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice that you made a calculator. DOE certainly didn't give us a calculator on our last application. So we really appreciate it, gang. Thanks everybody for joining us. Again, and if you have other questions, you can email our group and we'll pass it along and do our best. But we're really excited that this program exists and that Brandi and Chensen are gonna get some projects done in Virginia. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, folks.